I thought I'd give you an update on the progress of the table. When I ended the last video, I was getting ready to join the boards together. These two wide boards for the tabletop, glue them together, and I got that done. Got them as would be the face side. I got them pretty flat. I just stacked them vertically. I didn't do any kind of flat glue up. I stacked them vertically, and I'm pretty good here. And I'm pretty good here in the middle. One of the boards a little high, but that's of absolutely no concern. It's actually a little advantage at this point. And I'll be able to plane this board down a little bit. It's just a few thousandths high here. I'll be able to plane that down nicely. Before I went any further, I've got, I know I have to prep two more wide boards for the top, but I thought I would just kind of see where I was at. One of the things, so I just made up a little string, and I've got this little awl, and it actually was a little advantage to me. Having a high spot here wouldn't leave a hole on my table when I was done. I'm just trying to get, I knew this would be about 42.5 to 43 inch wide top. Just trying to get the most I could out of the boards as they were. I could see here. I swing this string out in a circular arc. I could see that I still need at least, a 10-inch or 9-inch wide board here to complete, two of them to complete the top. And it goes on around. I'm just trying to show you how I created the circle. Goes right around. Okay. But what that allowed me to do is, just double check my estimate for what I would need. I'm trying to be as sparing with the wood as possible. So I think I've cut some 38-inch pieces. That's way longer than I'll need. Not way longer, but longer than I need, so I'm good there. I've got those pieces cut to length. So I started with three 10-foot wide boards. I'm into my second board. So what we did was we, hand sawed something that'll fit right in there. I've got to, plane the board down, prep it, thickness it pretty close, and we'll glue that up. And I've done this before, not glue up the whole top in one piece. I'll actually just prep, the two pieces of top and I'll put a single piece and just add it on there. Then I'll do the same for the other side to complete it. Once that's done, I'm going to end up something very heavy. But once that's done, then I'll just I'll continue to make this rounded. And what I've done in the past, I'll just take a handsaw, a crosscut saw, and I'll saw pretty close to the line. And I might use not a paring chisel, but a big chisel, kind of trim some. I'll use spoke shaves and finish the round. It's really not that, I don't expect too much trouble from that. Too much difficulty, I mean. I also went ahead and I don't recommend this, I don't usually do this. I'm building this table off a picture. I generally like to make some kind of at least rudimentary plans. I guess I do have kind of a rudimentary plan, but I'm kind of just working this out as I go. But anyway, I went ahead and made a template for the, get an idea what I'm going to have for the legs. So the leg will set somewhere in here. I've got an idea where it needs to go. Somewhere in the area of right here, and there'll be 4 of them. And right at this joint here, there will be a little rectangular section, we'll call it a tray, but they'll be joined together by a rectangular piece of wood here. Haven't worked out all those details. So, you know, you're talking about 1 in here, you know, 1 in here somewhere. So 4, obviously 4 legs. So I've got this template made for that. And what that did for me, one of the biggest things is just see, you know, when I'm cutting stock, the length. So I know I'm probably going to have width of about, say, 3 1/4. But just, you know, just prepping and knowing, you know, about how much wood that I'll need to make a leg. You know, what length, rough cut length I'll need. And so this will become a piece I'll saw out. This was left over from one of the boards. It's laid out for 3, so I know with a wide board I can get 3 pieces of stock. Probably I'm going to laminate 2 together. I could go back to the store and get 8/4, but I think I want a little bit. I know I do a little bit wider leg than what I can get out of 6/4 stock. So I might join 2 together. Not 100% decided. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start ripping down the wood for the table legs. I'm going to do a little bit of that before I go back to working on this top. Here's a little update on the tabletop. The round red oak tabletop we're working on. So it's a 4-piece top, very wide boards. I've gone ahead and traced the 43-inch circle on it. Now the next step will be to cut this off pretty close to the line. I haven't said before, but well, I did say it's a rub joint, and I've been using this just a clear Gorilla Glue. So I'm using modern adhesive, and I've used it in the past. It works very well. So the next step's going to be, you know, like I said, cutting, you know, close to the line, and then I'll use, you know, a few different spoke shaves to shave it square to the line. That'll be the next step. And like I said before, there is some final flattening to be done. You know, there's a couple of places I left it proud a little bit. I'm undecided yet, you know, whether that's going to be the final flattening will be done with scrapers or a plane. Probably a combination of both. So yeah, it's and I'll be using a combination of saws. I've got a frame saw that'll scroll. I've also had good success. You know, I'll be using rip saws. But some of the saws, and you'll see a lot of old saws that are very narrow at the point. And that actually had a use in woodworking, different than other panel saws with a wide tip like this. A narrow saw, you can actually scroll quite a bit. I'll actually be able to get in here at some point, and as long as I use the tip, I'll be able to, you know, actually make some turns with it. Probably won't do a lot of that, but that's an option. I'll be using, you know, a few different methods to cut this, you know, as close to the line as possible. So that is the next step. Cut this to round, maybe do a little flattening, and then I'll go back to work on the legs. Here's an update on the table. So I had a frame type scroll saw, but really what worked the best cutting this round was just a combination of a rip and crosscut saw, you know, getting close to the line. And maybe it needed more tune-up, but I did have a wood frame, you know, type of scroll saw, big frame. But anyway, so once again, this is traditional woodworking. I just put a coat of blonde shellac on the top. This is the top. The top is about 43 inches in diameter. It should be a nice little table to seat 4. Then it was a matter of just a good spoke shave to make it round. So next we'll go work on the this frame for it. But anyway, I'm pleased with the way it's turning out. Workbench is getting pretty cluttered. So next I'll do a little cleanup, sharpen some tools, and then we'll go to turn this rough stock on this other bench here. We'll go to turn that into a frame. Yeah, I just wanted to say my idea, this isn't the shellac won't be the final finish, but since this is such a porous wood, my idea was just help keep the top clean while I'm working. You know, I'll certainly go over the top once more with some scrapers and you know, do even a little more refining. But that's the only reason for the shellac. It won't be the finish. It's just protect the finished wood. That's what I'm thinking. A little bit before it gets a final finish. Okay, I'm working on the table legs. I've got this rough sawn red oak. We're gonna make it flat, make it square, make it true. I just completed one of them. It's a nominal 2x4 size. And then we'll, like I showed before, we'll make a table leg. Here's a template made out of scrap wood that I put together just to see how it would look. What we'll be doing is, you know, we'll get 2 pieces out of this rough stock. And so we'll need to true up 4 of these boards to make the legs. I pretty much almost always start with my my joiner scrub. That's the only thing I could describe it as. It's also the oldest plane I have, once again. What I'm going to just do is, you can see how gnarly and even stained this wood is on top. But I could see there's a high spot here. We'll attack that first. The advantage of this plane, besides the weight for plowing through the wood, I also get a little bit of flattening out of it. And I keep the sole true. So, you know, no long passes yet. We'll just attack the high spot here. So, like I was just saying, this wood here is just freely supported, just with an end stop. I prefer to work this way. I have a nice solid bench. I'll do the same thing when I go to do the sides, get them square. I even feel it's easier to get square, naturally find a square edge when you don't, when it's freely supported, believe it or not. At least that's what I think. And that's what all YouTubers say. You know, I'm not saying this is the best way. I'm saying, and of course everybody learns something new all the time. We're just saying this is the way I do it. It works for me. I'll start to introduce some full-length passes down the board. So you might ask, when is it time to, rather than use a scrub plane to take wood down, when is it time to saw? So like I was just saying, I use a scrub, either this one, a long joiner scrub. I keep saying that because people don't do joiner scrub except me. And then, once again, I have this continental style scrub plane I made. But so when would you I could rip this rough sawing off. You'd still have rough sawn. But the question is, when would you, the question is, when would you, saw, rather than, take a certain thickness off the top, actually rip it with a rip saw. What works for me is, if you got a 1/4 inch or more to take off, I think it's better to use a rip saw. See, these passes, not getting much yet, but progressively I'll get more and more. I'm a believer, use multiple planes, sometimes to keep So I would say with wooden planes, there's a lot less fidgeting to do. You don't see me fidgeting with any lateral adjustment. You don't see me fidgeting with any depth adjustment. So I would say wooden planes, there's a lot less fidgeting with adjustments. I set the adjustment I want with a particular plane in the beginning. And so I've got this one set up. This is a roughing plane. It's not set up to be precise, but it's an old one and it's very heavy. And since I'm not getting any real friction on the sole, the momentum is in my favor here. I'm not feeling the weight. I get it started. So what I'm doing here is getting it flat and removing the sawmill chatter marks. Almost there. Like I said before, with this red oak, you don't get the nice, satisfying wood shavings. It's the nature of the wood grain. I mean, I've got my plane pretty flat, and I'm getting more like wispy pieces. That's coming out well. Pretty flat. And I don't need dead flat. Like I said, this is there's two pieces to make the angle for the legs. This essentially will get cut in half. Not looking for perfect here. Doesn't have to be dead flat along its length, because this gets cut in half. Sometimes if I get down, if I just need to clean up one small area, I'll do it this way with a smaller plane. So there's one side of leg number 2. So what I'll do next is I'll take my homemade persimmon, solid persimmon marking gauge, just a knife type marking gauge, and I've got this set to about 1.5 inches. I'm just trying to get an idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's legs under a table. It'll be very good. Okay, so I know. And I already know it dips up at the ends. I'm just trying to get the most I can out of this piece. So I'm just trying to get an idea how much needs to come off. So the marking gauge showed me about how much, showed me, a little more off here. It's pretty much dead in the middle. And I've got some to take off here, which you can see in the board. I'll do the same thing to the opposite side. This should give me an idea. What I'm working with. I'm darkening the scratch mark with a pencil. Not as much as I thought. Let me check the middle. Yeah. And then I'll see, just looking at the grain. So looking at the grain here, I can see this is the better orientation in my bench. I'll be planing this direction. Once again, 32-inch scrub joiner comes out. I know I'm high on the ends. I'll just start attacking that. I might decide to do the same thing on the other side. I'll get pretty close to my lines. And so it goes. And so it goes. Taking a little off here, taking a little off here. There's more to do, but that's the way it'll progress. At a certain point, like you see me, I might transition to full-length strokes, but it is even a little actually kind of early for that. But anyway, you can get in a rhythm. You've got your tools prepared correctly, sharp. You know, sometimes the wood's very cooperative, sometimes it's not. So it varies how long it takes to prep a board, but it can go very quickly. In this case, I would say it's average. I could see, and once again, use your hand. You can use a straight edge, but I could feel it's high here still. I could see it's high. Your eye is the best tool also. You've read the wood with your eyes. You read the wood with your hand. You've read the wood with your eyes. And so on. So I'm going to end this one here at this point, this update, and get these legs prepped. There's always something to do at the workbench. If you're not planing, you could be sharpening, you could be cleaning up the area, and it all works towards the end goal of getting this table done.